2:17 a.m. Somewhere in the Persian Gulf. The night is calm, the sea is silent, and inside a US Navy destroyer, radar screens glow faintly in the dark. Everything appears routine, until one signal appears. It's small, incredibly fast, and completely out of place. Not a drone. Not a fighter jet. Within seconds, the system flags it, a hypersonic missile. Traveling at speeds beyond Mach 10, maneuvering unpredictably, and heading directly toward a US carrier strike group. In theory, this is exactly the kind of weapon designed to break American naval dominance, too fast to intercept, too agile to track, a true nightmare for any defense system. Every second now matters. And yet, something unexpected happens. There are no alarms blaring, no visible panic, no sudden chaos across the fleet. The ships don't react like they are under imminent threat. Because for the US Navy, this moment isn't a shock. It's expected. Long before this missile ever left the ground, something else had already begun, a silent battle, invisible and unfolding far beyond what any radar screen can show. A battle not defined by speed, but by information. Hypersonic missiles are often described as unstoppable weapons, but there is one critical detail that changes everything. They don't think. They don't search. They don't decide. They follow data. And if that data is wrong, if the information guiding them is compromised or outdated, then even the fastest weapon ever built becomes something else entirely. Not unstoppable. Just fast, and lost. In recent years, Iran has announced what it calls a game-changing breakthrough, with the development of hypersonic missiles, particularly the Fattah series. According to Iranian officials, these weapons can travel at speeds exceeding Mach 13, maneuver mid-flight, and evade even the most advanced missile defense systems. With a reported range of over 1,000 kilometers, they are specifically designed to target high-value assets in the Persian Gulf, including US military bases and, more importantly, aircraft carriers. On paper, this sounds like a direct challenge to American naval dominance. For decades, the US Navy has relied on carrier strike groups as the centerpiece of its global power projection, in massive floating airbases capable of launching sustained operations anywhere in the world. But hypersonic missiles were built to disrupt exactly that. Fast enough to reduce reaction time to mere minutes, unpredictable enough to bypass traditional interception methods, and powerful enough to inflict catastrophic damage with a single hit. In theory, a successful strike could shift the balance of power in the region almost instantly. And that's precisely why these weapons generate so much attention. They represent a new phase in modern warfare, and one where speed and maneuverability appear to outmatch defense. But there is a crucial assumption behind all of this, that the missile knows exactly where its target is. Because no matter how advanced a weapon becomes, it cannot create its own battlefield awareness. It depends entirely on external systems, satellites, radar networks, data links, and command centers, to guide it toward a moving target in an environment that is constantly changing. And this is where the gap between theory and reality begins to emerge. Because while hypersonic missiles may be fast, the system that supports them is far more vulnerable than it appears. And in modern naval warfare, it's not the missile itself that determines success or failure, it's everything behind it. A hypersonic missile doesn't think. It doesn't search. It doesn't adapt on its own. No matter how advanced it is, it follows instructions, precise, continuous instructions that must guide it toward a target that is constantly moving. To strike something as dynamic as a US aircraft carrier, the missile relies on a process known as the kill chain. This is not a single system, but a sequence of perfectly coordinated steps. First, the target must be detected, usually by satellites scanning vast areas of ocean or long-range radar systems watching the horizon. Then, that target must be tracked continuously, because a carrier does not stay still, it changes speed, direction, and even its electronic signature. That tracking data must then be transmitted through secure communication networks, often across long distances, without delay or disruption. Finally, the missile receives updates that guide it during flight, allowing it to adjust course and attempt a precise strike. Every step must work flawlessly, in real time, under combat conditions. Because if even one part of this chain fails, if the satellite loses sight, if the radar is deceived, if the data is delayed, or if the communication link is disrupted, the entire system begins to collapse. The missile may still be traveling at incredible speed, but it is no longer guided accurately. And against a target that can move miles in a short period of time, even a small error becomes critical. This is the fundamental weakness hidden behind hypersonic technology. Not in the missile itself, but in the fragile network that makes it effective. And this is exactly where the US Navy focuses its strategy. It does not wait for the missile to arrive. It does not rely only on intercepting something that fast. Instead, it looks deeper into the system that feeds the missile its information. Because in modern naval warfare, destroying the weapon is only one option. Breaking the system behind it is far more effective. The US Navy doesn't try to outrun hypersonic missiles, and it doesn't rely on stopping them at the last second. Instead, it fights in a completely different way, by breaking the system long before the weapon ever reaches its target. This begins with information dominance. American forces operate within a vast network of satellites, surveillance aircraft, and intelligence systems that monitor potential threats continuously. The moment a missile is prepared for launch, there is already a high chance it has been detected, analyzed, and tracked. But detection is only the first step. The real advantage lies in disruption. Electronic warfare systems are designed to interfere with the signals that hypersonic missiles depend on. Radar can be jammed, communication links can be distorted, and targeting data can be delayed or corrupted. Instead of a clear battlefield picture, the enemy sees confusion. False targets appear. Real targets disappear. Coordinates shift just enough to create uncertainty. At the same time, the carrier strike group itself is constantly moving, not randomly, but strategically. Courses are adjusted, formations shift, and electronic signatures are managed to reduce visibility. Decoys may be deployed, creating multiple possible targets where only one is real. So by the time a hypersonic missile is in flight, the information guiding it is already under pressure. The target it was given may no longer match reality. And because these missiles rely on precision over long distances, even a small error in data can result in a complete miss. This is the core of modern naval defense. Not a single shield, but a layered system of deception, disruption, and movement. The missile may still be fast, still maneuverable, still dangerous, but it is no longer operating in a clear environment. It is moving through a battlefield that has already been reshaped against it. And in that environment, speed alone is not enough to guarantee a hit. Now imagine the moment of impact. Iran launches a hypersonic missile toward a US carrier strike group in the Persian Gulf. The weapon accelerates rapidly, climbing and diving through the atmosphere, adjusting its trajectory as it closes in on its assigned target. On paper, this is the decisive moment, the point where speed and precision should converge into a successful strike. But behind the scenes, a different battle is already unfolding. US early warning systems detect the launch almost instantly, tracking the missile from its initial boost phase. Within seconds, the carrier strike group begins to respond. The carrier alters its course, not drastically, but enough to shift its future position miles away from where it was moments before. Destroyers reposition, aircraft adjust their patrol patterns, and electronic warfare systems activate. Signals in the region begin to change. Data links feeding the missile become unstable. Radar reflections grow inconsistent. At the same time, false signatures begin to appear, ghost targets that mimic the carrier's profile, drawing attention away from the real ship. As the hypersonic missile enters its terminal phase, it attempts to refine its target. But the picture it sees no longer matches the one it was given. The carrier has moved. The data is outdated. The battlefield has shifted. The missile is still traveling at extreme speed, still capable of devastating impact, but now it faces a fundamental problem: it is no longer certain where to strike. In some cases, the missile may overshoot. In others, it may lock onto a false target. And if it continues to close in, it may encounter the final layer of defense, the interceptors designed to engage incoming threats at high speed. Not every missile will be stopped, and not every defense will be perfect. But the goal is not perfection. The goal is disruption. Because in modern warfare, reducing accuracy is often enough to neutralize even the most advanced weapon. And in this scenario, the hypersonic missile does not fail because it is too slow or too weak. It fails because the reality it depends on no longer exists. hypersonic missiles are real. They are fast, advanced, and undeniably dangerous. They represent years of research, billions in investment, and a clear attempt to challenge the balance of power at sea. On the surface, they appear to be the ultimate weapon, is something that can outrun defenses, overwhelm reaction time, and strike with devastating precision. But beneath that surface lies a different reality. These weapons do not operate in isolation. They depend on a chain of systems, satellites, radar networks, communication links, and data processing, that must function perfectly in a highly contested environment. And in modern naval warfare, that environment is anything but stable. It is constantly being disrupted, manipulated, and reshaped in real time. This is where the true advantage of the US Navy becomes clear. It does not simply prepare to defend against the missile itself. It prepares to dismantle the system that makes the missile effective. By targeting information, by denying, distorting, and controlling it, the Navy changes the conditions of the battle before it even begins. And when the conditions change, even the most advanced weapon loses its edge. This is the illusion of hypersonic warfare. The idea that speed alone can decide an outcome. In reality, speed is only one variable in a much larger equation. What truly matters is awareness, coordination, control. The side that sees first, understands faster, and acts with better information will always have the advantage. And that is why the US Navy does not fear hypersonic missiles, not because they are harmless, but because they are predictable in one crucial way. They rely on a system that can be broken. In the end, the battle is not between ship and missile. It is between systems. Between networks. Between information. And in that battle, the winner is not the one with the fastest weapon, but the one who controls what the weapon believes is real.